Hello everyone, and welcome to Petit Piano Tutorials. This video is dedicated to Goshal Azizi, who asked for a video to help aligning the hands so that hands together practice will be easier and more efficient. So there isn't really a single method or way that you can do to do this, but I do have a couple of ideas. And the most important one being something that I call finding points of choreography, or POC for short. These points of choreography can also be thought of as points where the hands come together. And these meeting points can form interval groupings, or they can expose fingerings that are the same at the same time. So for example, with fingerings, you might be playing one in the left hand while you're playing one in the right hand. Or, four in both hands, or five, or whatever finger. And that gives you a reference point to look for and go, oh, okay, in the middle of this passage, my fourth fingers are going to line up. And that gives you a place to sort of know, okay, I'm in the right place. And then with the intervals, the most common intervals to see between the hands are unisons, thirds, sixths, octaves, and tenths. So, of course, we can see fourths, fifths, and all these different other intervals, but the most common and easiest to memorize are ones that are monotonal and that almost form a chord, like thirds and sixths and octaves. So anyway, I'm going to use a couple of pieces that sort of give an example of what this would actually look like in practice. I have a Bach Invention, a Beethoven Sonata, and a Rachmaninoff Etude. So first piece is the fourth Bach Invention. Let me just play the first four bars for you so you can hear it. This is a D minor. Just that much, because I think you'll get the point after this. The hands come together on the downbeat of bar 3. And what we see is the interval of a tenth between them. So this is an example of where the meeting point forms an interval, D to F. And then when the hands come together again on beat 2 of that same bar, we have another tenth, this time on F and A. Right there. And so just knowing that the first two beats of that bar are tenths can give you a reference point if you find it difficult to get this together. And then on bar 4, we can see a C sharp in the left hand and a G in the right. This isn't one of the more common intervals, but it is one that in this case is good to memorize, and that is a tritone. So you have a C sharp and a G, and then on beat 2 we have A and C sharp, but that A is going to resolve to G on the offbeat in the left hand, and so that forms now G and C sharp, which is the inverse tritone of what we had on beat 1, C sharp and G sharp. So just memorizing that those tritones kind of get exchanged on beats 1 and 2 can give you a reference point for where you're at. Right there. And so when you find a point of choreography, one way you can solidify it and really practice it in is stop right at it and then keep going. So just give yourself a little bit of time. When you stop, you have the brain draw attention to what you just stopped at. So if I am playing and I stop there, the last thing you're going to remember is the last thing you played. And so that's the G. And so you train your brain to remember something about that. So in this case, you remember the points of choreography, which in the first two bars are the tenths and the tritones. So I'm going to stop on those. that so you really have an idea of them, and then you play the passage again. And it should feel more solid that way. And so just looking for things like this throughout the whole piece will help. So that's an example of different intervals. Now I'm going to use an example of the same intervals where instead of having lots of variety, it's the same thing consistently, and in this case it's an octave, Rachmaninoff's Little Red Riding Hood Etude. If you don't have the sheet music for this, you can download it on imslp.com, or it might be .org. But it's a very famous sheet music, free sheet music website, and they have almost everything in the repertoire. So anyway, if we look at bar 6 here, 6 through 10 is what I'm going to play. Let me just play this real quick. Just that much. Look at, it's in 3/4 time, so look at the offbeat of 2 and 3 in these bars, and you will notice a chromatic scale is formed between the hands. So just that offbeat is the point of choreography, and we see the chromatic scale D sharp taking us all the way up to F sharp 3 bars later. And actually all the way up to G. You get all the way up there and then you go back down to E where you started. So once you see that point of choreography between the hands and the octave that is formed between them, you can stop on it, like I said in the Bach Invention, and that would sound like this. Etc. So you can really see where that octave is. And that way it'll feel more like one hand. And that's what this piece really should feel like. It shouldn't feel like two things, one hand with a repeated note pattern and one hand with rotations. It's got to feel like it's just one hand doing one thing. Like that. So there's another example of just how there's a hidden line that's formed between the hands, and just knowing it and just being aware of it makes it easier to play. Now the final example I'm going to be using, which is an example of where fingerings line up, is a very common sonata for beginners by Beethoven, and that is Opus 49, number 2. Even though beginners play this, it shouldn't be underestimated. It does have a lot of things that you can learn from it, and it's definitely not a bad piece either. So just the first 4 bars here will make the point, and I'll play those real quickly. Just that much. So we have basically 2 points of choreography that each last for 2 beats. So the first one is beat 4 of measure 2, and we have the thumbs lining up on the same note, and that's going to be G. At least with my fingering, in the left hand I use 1, 2, 1 on that B, A, G. So this is where my thumbs line up. Right here, beat 4 of measure 2. And then I go to the second finger on the downbeat of measure 3. And so that forms the finger grouping 1, 2, and they're going outward. And so just knowing that gets those things lined up really well. And then my next point of choreography is the downbeat of bar 3 with beat 2 of bar 3. And the same fingerings, I use 3 and 2, so they're going to come into each other, towards each other, the hands go, and they have the same fingering. So E in the left hand, D in the right, going to F sharp in the left, and C in the right. And then resolving. There is a trill on that, but if you just see the beginning of the trill, you get the 3-2 fingerings. And so just seeing those two sets of points of choreography can help you align that whole passage. And again, doing it with the stopping. So that's all I have for today because I don't want the video to be too long. But if you want more examples, I would be happy to record some and post them with more video and explanation of them. If you have any questions, please let me know. And you can send me an email at pianoapprentice@hotmail.com. And also check out my website and Facebook page in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.